Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we'll be talking about life in Reterra. But before we do, we just want to remind you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can see all our videos as they come out. Okay, Life in Reterra is designed by Eric Lane, Ken Gruhl, and it is published by Hasbro Gaming.
All right. So this takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. So the world has already ended, right? It's done and over with. We already had the zombie phase, all that stuff. It's done.
It's over.
But now there's some survivors. This is hundreds of years in the future, and they have never had a chance to play football. They don't know what the satellite dishes are. They don't know what all these buildings, what they were originally used for. So now they're repopulating the Earth, rediscovering all this stuff, and just kind of having some fun with it as they're kind of re-exploring the world that was from before the apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's a tile laying game. You're trying to build some buildings out there and discover as much as possible. Let me give you a quick overview of how to play. All right, here's our setup for Life in Reterra. We're basically set for a 4-player game. You're set for a 3 or 2-player game. You basically just use less tiles out there. But either way, we're going to lay out all different cards based off whatever set we're using. The game comes with 3 sets, 1, 2, and 3. All the sets are kind of pre-packaged those in their own little containers. That way, when you want to play one of those sets, you just use those sets. But also, they're all mixed and matchable as well. So there's lots of different ways you can rearrange these. And on top of that, they are double-sided. So each time you play, you can change up which side you're using. This is kind of the recommended first set. This is set 1, all on the purple cards. Every player is going to start the game by getting one of these starting tiles, as well as 3 randomly dealt out tiles. Then we have 5 tiles over there that we're going to be drafting from. On our turn, we're basically just going to take one of those tiles from that row and place it into our tableau, connecting it to our tiles that are already there. You don't need to match up sides. However, it usually behooves you to match up some sides in order so you can build buildings and kind of get some points based off of large sections. Alternatively, if you do not like the lineup of 5 cards, you also have the tiles of your hand over here that you choose from as well. Those are basically tiles that only you can use. You get 3 of them, but you never get to replenish them once you've used them. So you have kind of 3 special tiles, and that's all you have to work with throughout the game. So let's kind of go through what a turn might look like. On our turn, we're going to grab one of these tiles. We're going to connect it to our previous tiles. We've now got an area with 3 of these dark green kind of forest areas all together. Also, we have these gear symbols that you might find on cards. If you can get an area of 7 or more kind of small squares of the same type of terrain all together, that's going to be worth 3 points at the end of the game. If you get a section of larger than 7, it's still only 3 points. So you don't necessarily want to go crazy and make a huge, gigantic territory unless you have some kind of other strategy in mind. After you've laid out the tile, you can either place an inhabitant, which is one of these little meeple tokens, or you can place a building. Buildings are going to go on top of gears that are in the same terrain. So right now we have 2, 3, and 4 space buildings. So right now we can't really do anything with this because there are 2 different terrains. So let's go ahead and just take one of our things here, and let's put an inhabitant on that gear symbol. It's going to be worth 1 point at the end of the game. We've also left ourselves open to be able to make a building off of that green tile. And now let's go ahead and replenish the pile. On our next turn, we might draft a piece like this. This tile includes some relics. Relics are the symbols over here on the top of the board, which are basically kind of pre-printed things that are on the board that are going to be things from the olden days, right? And those are going to be worth points for you as well, kind of the same way the inhabitants are. There are also relics in the form of these little tokens that you can add to the board, and that's based off some of the card effects. So again, each one of the cards is a different effect. You never know what it's going to be. Each set you're going to use uses different effects, different tokens, different scoring opportunities, things like that. Speaking of scoring opportunities, we now have, by the way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those dark green things all in a row. So that officially is going to be worth 3 points at the end of the game. Let's go ahead and replenish the board. And now it's our next turn. What should we do? Well, I really want to finish off this gear thing so we can get a building. Let's look at our hand here. All right, so we've got some tiles here. This one right here is kind of interesting. Let's go ahead and place that. So now what we're going to do is we're not going to draw a new tile. We're going to keep it like that. But we've got 2 of the green tiles in a row. So let's go ahead and draft one of these buildings. Let's kind of look at these buildings. First of all, this tells you how many points they're worth as a base. Just by building them, this is how many points you're going to get. And each one is either kind of a special ability or a scoring opportunity. This particular one says, worth 2 additional points if you have more visible relics than both of your neighbors. So we've got a couple here, and we're hopefully going to get some more later. So let's go ahead and draft one of those buildings, put it onto our board, covering up those gear symbols. Now you can either grab a building or an inhabitant on the newly placed tile. So we cannot place an inhabitant on this gear, unfortunately. That would be an extra point, but you can only do one or the other. So that's basically how the game works. You're going to be drafting tiles either from the lineup or from your hand, placing them into your tableau to either put some inhabitants down or some relics or a building. Buildings are going to give you a lot of points and special abilities, and the more gears you have together, the bigger the buildings you can place and the better their effects are. We're going to be building a large 4x4 grid. At that point, when everyone has their 4x4 grid built, we're going to end the game. And we're going to add up all your different categories. So for the first category, for every one of your groups of terrain that is 7 or more, again, it's worth 3 points each. Also, we have these tiles here. These are called energy sources. If energy sources are completely surrounded by other tiles, in a 4x4 grid, that would basically mean they have to be one of the middle tiles. If they're completely surrounded, they're going to be worth 8 points, which is really strong. All of your relic tokens and all of your relic icons that aren't pre-printed, those are going to be worth 1 point apiece. All of your inhabitants that you've placed on their gear symbols, those are worth 1 point apiece as well. Then you're going to score your buildings. Remember, each building is going to have a pre-printed number on it, and they might also have some text as well involving more points. Some certain setups also involve junk. Junk are these other tokens, kind of the other side of those relic tokens. If you have any junk on your board, that's worth -1 for every junk. You're going to add up all your points from all the different categories, and whoever has the most points wins the game.
That insert was amazing. It was so nice. All these trays with the difficulties are that you're leading up to, and then the component with all the original tiles that you're playing with every game. I was like completely blown away by that. Like, you don't have to do that, right? You can put these on little baggies and you can do whatever with them, but they have it all together, and then all the cards are with the tokens that are with the tiles that they're with. I was just like absolutely blown away by the production quality of this Hasbro game. Like, I was shooketh.
This game is extremely replayable. So there are 15 cards. You use 5 of them at a time, and they're double-sided.
Yeah.
And so you can basically use set 1, then you use set 2, then you use set 3. And then you can flip over set 1, then you can flip over set 2, and then you can flip over set 3. And then you can combine parts of 1 and 2 and 3 and flip over parts of 1 and 2 and 3 and keep on making more and more iterations that all play a little bit differently. Some are going to use more of the inhabitant tokens. Some are going to use the relic tokens. Some are going to be more aggressive. Some are going to be very, very simple and based off of just scoring points. Whatever the case is, there's just so many different ways that you can combine these cards and these tiles to make new sets. It's just unbelievably replayable. Every time you play, it's a new setup.
Yes, and to just piggyback off of that, because there's so many variables and because there's so many different ways you can play this game, you can actually like scale the difficulty depending on who you're playing with. So if you're playing with younger people, you can scale it. You can use cards that don't have as much text on them. You can do stuff like that. But if you're playing with a group that just wants a lot, you can choose all of the weird cards, all of the cards that interact with each other in a weird way while you're still playing the exact same game. So I like how you can scale the difficulty of the game that you're playing.
This is a very puzzly feel to it. You're making a 4x4 grid, and you're adding just one tile at a time. You're trying to place it in such a way that you're making these groups of 7 or more lands. You're trying to draft all the different inhabitants or relics or set up to make a building and then use the buildings effectively, whatever the case is. So it's a very, very puzzly feel to it as you're drafting these cards. And I like how you also have the chance to draft from your own personal hand as well, so you have more options. If what's out there isn't what you need, refer to your own hand. You have a little more options. But I liked how there's different ways to score, different things you could focus on at different points in the game and try to maximize your score. It's a very fun puzzle to solve.
Yeah. The only real complaint I had about this game is I didn't feel like there was enough inhabitants. We played a 3-player game, and one
of the buildings had to do with like putting extra inhabitants out there.
And we didn't run out. We used the very last one, but it got very close. And I imagine if you were playing at the 4-player count, you would easily run out of inhabitants. So that's my only complaint, is I wanted more inhabitants in the game. But overall, like, I'm so surprised with this game. I really enjoyed it. I'm like shocked, I guess, that Hasbro put this out, because Hasbro does do stuff in partnership with other hobby game companies. So this is just them, and I am very impressed with what they did.
If somebody somewhere was like, you know what, we need some Eric Lang, some Ken Gruhl in here, let's make this happen.
Yes.
Good kudos to them. I found myself wanting to play this like over and over and over again. When I first got into to Dominion, you know, you get 25 Kingdom cards in the base box, or at least the first edition, and then you play with 10 of them, and then you can kind of pick a different 10, or then you can combine things, and you can do whatever, and then you can buy expansions, and you can keep on playing with more and more different 10-card setups. That's what this felt like to me. I wanted to explore as many of these options and these variable setups as possible. I want to make new sets. I want to make new strategies. I want to like do weird stuff to try to, you know, and this is even a spot in the rulebook where you can write down sets that you've used that were really fun so that we can refer to them again in the future. Yeah. And there's just a ton of to explore here. And I'm kind of craving it more and more. I want to see everything this game has to offer. And I've played it a bunch, and I haven't even touched the end of it all. So that makes me very excited. It's tickled my brain in just the right way with all the puzzliness to it. I enjoyed the heck out of Life in Reterra, or Reterra, whatever it is.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Bye.
You guys, thanks so much for watching. This game was provided to us by a publisher in exchange for a fair and honest review.
And if you want to see more stuff, check out over here to see something we think you might like.
And over here, we think that YouTube has picked out a great video for you you're going to love. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.